everybody, in this video you'll be learning about partial classes in C#. The agenda of my video will be what are partial classes, syntax and declaration of partial classes, and advantages of partial classes. So let's get straight to it. What I'm going to do first is I'm going to create a console application in Visual Studio. Okay, so here I've created a console application, and now let's understand about what is a partial class. Basically, a partial class gives you the special ability to implement one same class in different class files. Okay? And when your program gets compiled, or when you compile a program, then all of these class files are combined together to form one single class, like a normal class, right? So the partial keyword can also be applied with interfaces, structures, or even methods. So now let's take a look at how we can declare a partial class. Now I'm on the program class. That is the default class when you create a console application. But here I already have different files. So I'm going to go over here to studentpartial1.cs, and how you create these files is by opening the Solution Explorer, right-clicking on your project, selecting Add, just right-click and show you that, selecting Add, and then New Item, or else down here it's not in the recording, you can just select Class, and you will add a class. Okay, so now inside of here, let me show you how you can declare a partial class. I'm going to come over here, and for declaring a partial class, you need to use the partial keyword. So I'm going to say partial, and now you have to type in the class keyword. So we're creating a partial class. Okay, partial class, and what I'm going to do is, just like a normal class, you have to give this partial class a name. So in my case, over here I've named the file studentpartial.cs. That's because this class name was meant to be student. And then just like a normal class, you will have these curly brackets inside of which the implementation of your class is done. So now what I'm going to do is, inside of this class, I'm going to have two fields. This is a student class, so let's say I want to have a field of ID and name, okay? So I'm just going to create that field. Private, not public. Private. We can just use, this is for creating a property. We'll just change that. So I'm going to set the access modifier to private, and here, okay. And then this is going to be called ID. And you don't need the get and set because this is not proper. Just duplicate the line, not two times. So private string is for storing the name. Private string, just go and call this something like name. This is for storing the name of the student. Now I'm going to come over here, and like I said, partial classes are for splitting the implementation for a class. So how do you split that implementation? Basically, come to the second file. So just create another file, and you have to say partial, zoom in over there, partial, and then of course class, partial class, student. So now let's give this a body. So now this class over here and this class are the same classes. So they're somehow, or they're connected. Okay? So this is how we split the implementation. So some of it can be over here and some of it can be over here. Again, at compile time, these both class files are going to be brought together to form one single class that will be like a normal class. So now we can do the implementation, right? So inside of here, we're going to have properties. So say prop, tab, so int, ID, and then we are going to have a get and a set accessor. And set. And of course the curly brackets, for get and set. Now, enter. Okay. Now for get, we're gonna return ID. So as you can see, it's accessible over here. But how is that? The accessibility level is private, or its access modifier is private. Like I said, these two are the same class. We're just splitting the implementation. So of course, that will be available over here also. So we're just going to return ID. And then inside of set, we're going to say ID is going to be set to value. Okay, just like that. Now we're even going to create a property for name. Copy, paste. So there's going to be string, public string name. And inside of here, instead of returning ID, we're going to return name. Even that is accessible. Return name. And we're going to set name to value. Okay, and now over here in student partial 3, I'm going to do the same thing that I did over here. Just do the partial class student. So, zoom in again. So, partial, first, class, student. You just get a suggestion, and then the body. So now inside of here, we're going to have a method for printing out the values of ID and the value of name. So let's just do that method. Public void is going to return nothing. Void. This is going to be called print. This takes no parameters. The body for this method. So inside of here, what we're simply going to do is we're going to take console.writeLine and we're going to print out ID. And we'll have a $sign, ID, colon, and the value of the ID property, ID, and then we're going to print even the value of name. So we're going to do that in a new line. So \n. We're creating a new line, okay, and then we're gonna say name colon and first placeholder for the property name. I'm gonna come up over here to program.cs, and inside this main method, I'm gonna create an object of that partial class. So this is just like creating an object of a normal instance class, which you already will be familiar with. So let's just do that. Let me show you how we can do it. Of course, first you have to start with the class name, or you can even use the bar keyword. So we're creating an object of student. Student equal to, I'm going to set this to new student, create an object, or an instance of the class. Okay. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to come here, and I'm going to say student or object name dot. I'm gonna initialize the property ID to 101. There's some random number 10, let's say, and student dot name is gonna be set to object. Semicolon, and then we'll call the print method. Student.print. So that's the method that we created inside of here. Right. So all of these are accessible because this partial class is just one single class, right? It gets joined on compile time. And now let's go ahead and run the program and check who will be that. Yep, the output over here is ID and it's 10. That's what we have set over here. So all of this is due to the print method. It's printing out. And name is object, which is correct. We have set that to object. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go over here to student3.partial, just for showing you a thing, if I remove the partial keyword over here, what will happen? We will get an error. So let's just read what the error message says. Missing partial modifier on the declaration of type student. Another partial declaration of this type exists. So what happens over here is that when we don't include the partial keyword, that time the C# compiler actually considers this class as a complete class. That means it does not expect any other parts of this class. And again, the meaning of partial, the meaning of the partial keyword or even partial is that its implementation is split into parts. So it makes no sense to do it like this, right? Because we have already defined it as partial into other files. So partial just like that, change that back. Okay? Now we're going to start talking about some advantages of using partial classes. So let's start. The first advantage that I want to talk about is that multiple developers can work on the same class on different files, which I've already showed you. So over here, I'm just going to show that again. We have declared a class, partial class called student. And even over here we have the rest of the implementation, and even over here we do. Okay? The second advantage is that we can split large classes into different parts. For example, you have like a lot of code inside of one single class. It'll be very messy and not readable, right? So you can just take the help of partial classes and you'll get an advantage. You're going to split that very large class into small parts. Also, with the help of partial classes, you can split the UI designer code or the UI code and the business logic. So in order to demonstrate that to you, I'm going to go to my Solution Explorer and add a project to my solution. That will be a WinForms application. So just right click on the solution, select add, and then select new project. So the window is loading up. Okay, so from here I'm just going to select Windows Forms application from the .NET Framework and click on this next button. It's maybe not visible in the recording. And now just give your project a name. I'm just going to name this CS Demo WinForms app. WinForms app. And then you have to click on this create button for your project to start creating. Okay, so here the project has been created. And now we're just going to drag in some components from the toolbox. So just pin that over here. Let's go ahead and drag in a button. Let's just search for that. Just drag it in. Just place it somewhere. This is just for a demo. Okay. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and go to Properties. Open the Properties window and give my button a name. So let the text just be button 1. And I'm just going to give this button a name of test underscore button. Test underscore button. Okay, click enter. And then now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to the code of this WinForms application or this window. So I'm just going to right click and select view code. Okay, yeah, it comes over here. Now we don't need the toolbox. So let's just click on that pin button to auto hide that. And now over here, if I just say hello, it's not hello, it was test underscore. Oh, not over here inside of a constructor. Sorry, we can access it over here. So test underscore button, that is a ID for our button. And how, if you wonder, how can we access the button over here? So if you may have noticed that this class is a partial class, and I'm not sure how many developers have already noticed that. So I'm just going to take you to the designer.cs file, form1.designer.cs. It's this one. I'm just going to open that file and show you what's inside of that file. Okay, can you see this? So this is the designer code right here inside of this file. So I'm just going to maximize this region. So this region, as you can see, there's this test button. So right here, there's like the name and the ID and the properties for the button, and even for a form one. So the design, the stuff that you have in your design is over here. This is the design generated code. So Windows Form Designer generated code. So this, as you can see, partial class form one. So what is this form one? It is this same class over here. So this is also a partial class, and this is a partial part of that class. So imagine if all of this code, all of this designer generated code was inside of here, inside of this class. Wouldn't it be like so confusing? Like you won't know where is the business logic and where's the design the design logic, or just the design code. Okay, so that's why we have this class marked as a partial class. We have the design generated, or the design code over here, Windows Forms Designer generated code inside of here, and we have our business logic over here. Okay, so again, at compile time, these both classes are going to get combined together, right? So I've already explained about that. And in the .NET Framework, other UI templates, like for example, WPF, ASP.NET Web Applications, and so on, even they have the partial class, one for the design code and one for your business logic, right? Okay. We're going to talk about some more important things about partial classes in the next video. So with that, I hope you have understood about partial classes in C#. Goodbye till the next video. Thanks for watching. Until then, enjoy C#.